Take one of the antivirals, and I really think people should consider getting vaccinated this fall.
Nancy, how concerned are you about the side effects of the vaccines? Because, you know, we always underestimate them. Again and again and again, we've underestimated them, and we end up causing so much harm with vaccines.
Well, I disagree. I don't think we cause harm with vaccines.
Well,
I think vaccines
I disagree,
change.
but let's not debate the general vaccines. Let's debate the side effects of this vaccine.
But we don't know the side effects of this vaccine because we don't have a vaccine.
Her point is isn't not knowing an unmanaged risk.
I'm going to assume you really mean this, going back to the swine flu vaccine in '76, which was a public health debacle when we vaccinated people and there were concerns about Guillain-Barré. I understand that,
and then they died.
But let's not lump all vaccines together.
Understood.
No, I'm just asking you, what are the side effects of this new vaccine?
We don't know. And
I'm not giving it to my child if you don't know.
So let's let her.
Then guess what, Ariana? Then you won't be vaccinating this fall, because here's the problem.
I will not be vaccinating a child of mine if you don't tell me what the side effects are.
So how can we vaccinate without knowing the side effects? In other words, why are you? She's uncomfortable not knowing. You're comfortable knowing. Explain to us why you're comfortable with the not knowing.
We will be together as we develop this vaccine, starting to get as much data as possible. If you want to look at safety of vaccines years after having one on the market, which is never possible with a virus that's changing in the community,
right,
you will not have every safety question answered this fall. Now, let me tell you, no one can address this better than Tony Fauci.
All right, so Dr. Fauci, why are you comfortable with the aspect of the unknown with a vaccine like this? In other words, what do you know about the unknown that you're willing to incur the risk of the unknown for what you believe are the perceived benefits of the known with this vaccine?
Well, there are a couple of important points. First of all, there are always risks when you have a vaccine. But if you look at the track record of these types of vaccines, which have been delivered on a seasonal basis for decades and decades with an extraordinarily good safety record, that is comforting. You never can rule out the way out type of a toxicity, which might even be manifested later on. But for this type of vaccine made by these manufacturers in a very similar way for decades of seasonal flu has a good safety record. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
The second thing is that look at the risk benefit back in 1976, which everyone refers to, when you didn't have a pandemic, but you had adverse events from the vaccine. There was no pandemic. Something started in Fort Dix with a few hundred soldiers. One died. It never got out of Fort Dix. We know we have a global pandemic right now. So the risk of a pandemic is very real in front of us. That's the kind of risk-benefit ratio that you think about when you talk about vaccinating and the safety versus the benefit.
I guess just to pick up on Ariana's point, because it applies to so many things we talk about, we're just trying to avoid a culture with anything where we assume an unknown risk in order for the political expedience of a solution. I'm not suggesting that that's what's going on here.
This is not politics here. This is
I know that it's not, but it's a value system, which is, am I willing to incur risk?
Then you can't say political expediency. This is public health.
Understood.
We live in a risk-averse society, so we will each individually have to say, yes, it's worth the risk. No, it's worth the risk.
But if we don't know what the risk is.
First of all, I don't think we live in a risk-averse society, as what's happened in Wall Street proves.
Of course we do.
But my major point here
we live in a society where the taxpayer takes the risk and the compensation goes to the bankers.
I find this unbelievably cavalier. I don't think it is responsible to tell the public, go vaccinate yourselves. We don't know what the risks are, but there is a chance that you might get infected. I think that there needs to be some real concerted effort to identify
Let me ask you a question, though, Ariana, which is, if we know the risk, if it's a quantifiable risk of the pandemic spreading without some sort of a vaccine, so we know that if we do not intervene, that the statistics suggest this type of a development, at what point do you, to avert that, incur the risk that you fear in order to deal with this?
I believe we need to put a lot more resources right now into identifying side effects. I mean, that happens. I mean, if you take polio vaccine, you know, we had two different vaccines.
So Dr. Fauci, you get the last word, and then I got to wrap it up.
There's something very important. The CDC is going to have a very intensive surveillance and following post-vaccination, so that if there are side effects that occur, and you'd only see after you vaccinated a large numbers of people, the surveillance mechanisms that they put in place will pick that up. They're not just going to vaccinate people and forget about it. That's not going to happen.
Dr. Fauci, thank you for giving us some of your time. Dr. Snyderman, thank you for some of your time. At some point, I'm going to commission you to advise me for my own medical care.
I'm going to give you a shot.
Yeah, no. I'll be running down the hall. I'll pass out. I can't handle it.
I'm going to run interference.
So it depends who can run fastest.
I'm not letting Dylan get a shot.
I'm running. Yeah, Ariana and I will both be running down the hall.
I'll put your pants down so fast you're getting it anyway.
All right. Don't you have a TV show to host? Contessa, help me. What's going on?
I don't know how to follow up on that one, Dylan.
Just keep on